Welcome back to the deep dive. We've got a really compelling stack of source material today. We're looking at the creation and the story of this, well, pretty audacious sci-fi epic called Negative Gravity, the Mannheim Effect.
Yeah, it's unusual stuff. You get two incredible stories packed into one, really. So our mission today, this deep dive, it's kind of twofold. First, we need to get our heads around the sheer scale of the catastrophe in the novel. It's terrifying.
Absolutely.
And second, we really have to appreciate the story behind the story. The author's own struggle creating this thing while basically immobilized. It's almost mythical.
The book's concept itself is just haunting. I mean, what if gravity didn't just weaken? What if it violently flipped?
Yeah, everything that goes up just keeps going up forever.
Oceans, houses, people just ascending endlessly into space.
Yeah, it's an unforgettable premise. And I think to really feel the chaos in the book, you first need to understand the person who imagined it, the creator.
Definitely. Let's start there. The architect of this mad tale, as the source calls him, a man named June. The picture painted is, well, it's stark. He's quadriplegic, lying prone in a hospital bed.
Yeah, and reflecting on 30 years of just constant, relentless physical suffering, it's a really heavy starting point.
But that's the foundation, isn't it? Both literally and, metaphorically.
Yeah.
He's at his lowest, thinking about his pain.
Yeah.
And then this creative spark hits him.
Exactly. It comes directly from his physical state. He's staring up at the ceiling, and he just has this moment where he imagines, quote, "The ceiling has become the floor." And that single image kicks off the whole idea, some kind of massive disruption to the Earth's magnetic field, flipping gravitational polarity. He calls it negative gravity or the Mannheim effect.
The dedication involved is, it's just breathtaking. He knows he needs a full storyboard, which is a huge task anyway. But he can't even hold a pencil. He's completely reliant on others, yet this drive, it's just unstoppable.
And that's the core of his struggle, his perseverance. The only way he can physically create the art, the storyboard, is by holding a pencil in his mouth.
In his mouth.
Yeah. And drawing like that, he initially thought, maybe a few weeks, couple of months at best. That's what the source says.
Which sounds wildly optimistic already, but okay.
Right. But the reality, it took him 8 years.
8 years.
8 long years. Drawing. With his mouth. The sources detail the physical costs, too. Constant elbow pain from the position, recurring bed sores that were so bad he had to take month-long breaks.
Wow. That's incredible commitment. It puts the whole fictional story in a different light, doesn't it?
It really does. It frames the whole thing with this real-world battle for creation, for meaning. And after all that, the title. His caregiver apparently suggested things like falling up or Newton's law broken. A bit on the nose, maybe.
Yeah, a little.
But June settles on negative gravity. Clean, simple, unsettling. Perfect.
Okay, so knowing that context, June's personal battle, let's pivot to the fictional catastrophe he dreamed up. Yeah. The event they call the third chastisement later on.
Right. So the story dives straight into the cosmic trigger. The sources say this negative gravity effect starts when a mysterious black stone appears in space.
It doesn't hit Earth, though.
No, it comes to rest miles above the North Pole, like some kind of huge, malevolent magnet that just flips the planet's gravity switch.
Okay, let's pause on the science, even if it's sci-fi science.
Yeah.
A magnetic disruption causing gravity reversal. How does the author connect those?
Well, the text suggests it's a specific kind of frequency or polarity shift from this stone that interacts with Earth's core. It's a classic what if, really. The force holding us down gets inverted. Mass starts repelling the planet's core.
So if you're not literally bolted down deep into the Earth,
you're gone. You just float away, which is, pretty much everything and everyone on the surface.
The immediate results are just horrifying to imagine. The world's oceans, right? The biggest unsecured masses.
They just start pouring upwards, out into the atmosphere, then into space. Total environmental collapse instantly.
And not just water. People, cars, animals, houses ripped from foundation.
Everything just tearing away and rising. Imagine seeing your neighbor's car just drift up, followed by your neighbor. It's nightmarish. The only safe places are deep underground. Basements, sewers, subway tunnels.
Huh. Interesting parallel there to June being confined himself.
Yeah, maybe intentional. The safe places are low, confined. And what's fascinating is how fast this cold physics gets woven together with theological dread.
Right, you mentioned Doc. The blind, homeless, religious eccentric. A war vet, too.
Yeah. The moment it happens, he's reading his Braille Bible and starts shouting, "Wormwood! Wormwood!"
Connecting it to Revelation.
Directly. Revelation 8, the star called Wormwood falls, makes the waters bitter, causes death. For Doc, this isn't random. It's prophecy. It's judgment.
And that interpretation gets reinforced later in the story, doesn't it? Through the framing device.
Exactly. The elder, speaking way in the future, explains this was the third chastisement of Earth. Why? Because of humanity's corruption.
What kind of corruption?
The elder specifically mentions men twisting scripture for lust and greed, waging war for the black blood of the earth. Oil. So the disaster isn't just physics, it's presented as a moral reckoning, a consequence for spiritual and, well, political failings.
Okay, so amidst all that chaos, we focus on Alex, young guy, our main protagonist. He's got this urgent mission.
Life or death. His sister, Noreen, is diabetic. Her condition gets critical fast when the event hits, and he needs to get her insulin.
So he has to go out into this upside-down world.
Yeah, and his journey becomes this masterclass in survival improvisation. The ground isn't safe, so how do you move?
The grappling hook thing.
Right. He salvages coaxial cable, a metal packing hook, makes this grapple, swings between buildings, trees, whatever, still angered. Like you said earlier, Tarzan style.
The movement descriptions are really vivid, climbing down poles, then scooting across telephone wires.
Yeah, him and another survivor, the pilot, use the wires like high-altitude balance beams, crossing these huge, deadly gaps.
And when the open air, with its upward pull, is too risky.
They go underground, into the sewer system, which is flooded, dangerous, but at least gravity isn't actively trying to fling them into space. And they get guided by Doc's cat, Fritz, apparently.
The cat navigator.
Hey, whatever works, right. But the journey is constantly about calculating risk. Which direction is, less likely to kill you?
And the cost of miscalculation is steep. The sources really emphasize the deaths along the way. It's relentless.
Yeah, it hammers home how fragile life becomes. Specific deaths are listed. Tim the mechanic, crushed by his own car when gravity flipped back briefly, or shifted maybe. Mr. Dobbs killed fighting those vicious dogs, Romulus and Remus.
The ones in Miss Bernice's basement, the shelter.
That's them. June's own sister dies in a house explosion. A workman in the sewer, a businessman, Andrew Larry the parking attendant, the pilot's passenger, the list goes on.
These deaths aren't just like background noise either. They seem tied into the author's broader commentary.
Absolutely. They underscore this cynicism about, institutional morality maybe, the fight for scarce resources, and it sharpens the political jabs June layered in.
Right, you mentioned June's perspective comes through, and the pilot shares it. This anger at corrupt televangelists.
Yeah, the prosperity gospel types. The sources use specific terms attributed to June's thinking, or the pilot's dialogue, Dixiecrats, talk about a Jesus Land amusement park concept.
Wow, okay, so pretty pointed critiques.
Very pointed. The text uses labels like Dixiecrats and even teabaggers to criticize specific political and religious movements the author clearly saw as hypocritical or exploitative.
So the suggestion is these groups represent the greed and corruption the elder talked about, the stuff that caused the chastisement.
That seems to be the connection the author is drawing. It's presented as the kind of earthly sin that made the cosmic punishment necessary.
It's a really interesting mix, though. You have that cynicism towards the exploiters of faith. But then you have Doc's unwavering, maybe even blind zealotry, who turns out was right about the biblical doom part. And Alex's quiet, genuine faith and perseverance.
Right. So it reads more like a critique of hypocrisy within religion and politics, not necessarily faith itself.
And this critique really culminates with Pastor Leroy, right? One of those televangelists June apparently despised.
Oh, yeah. He becomes the main antagonist down in the sewers. The catastrophe drives him totally insane. He develops, the text says, homicidal psychosis.
And becomes what?
A cannibal, wielding an axe, hunting Alex and the pilot in the darkness.
Good grief. That's quite the authorial statement. Taking that symbol of, spiritual greed and making him a literal monster.
It definitely suggests a link, spiritual corruption leading to actual physical depravity, a stark image.
And then, just as things reach peak horror down there, the event ends.
Just like that, abruptly. The black stone thing miles above Earth emits one last huge magnetic pulse, fractures, and boom, normal gravity snaps back. Instantly.
But normal doesn't mean safe. Alex falls from the tree he was in.
Violently. And worse, All the stuff that floated up bodies, debris, cars, parts of houses comes crashing back down, including the still flaming body of Pastor Leroy.
Flaming.
Yeah, apparently he caught fire somehow during the fight, and his body rains down and disintegrates on impact. It causes massive flash floods everywhere as all that mass returns. It's this huge, violent, tragic climax. But then the author pairs it with something really quiet and human. Alex finally makes it home with the insulin.
Only to find.
Noreen has already died, peacefully, but she's gone.
Oh, man. Gut punch.
Totally. But right at that moment, Mr. Dobbs's wife, who went into premature labor earlier, gives birth. A healthy baby girl.
And she names her?
Noreen. The narrative offers this line. Everything that dies someday comes back in a brand new body that isn't sick. It's this small, almost fragile symbol of hope, of the cycle continuing amidst all that destruction.
But the book doesn't quite let you rest on that hope, does it?
Yeah.
It ends with the elder again.
Yeah, back in the far future. The elder tells his students, look, that whole catastrophe, that was just the third chastisement. And guess what? Humanity forgot the lesson pretty damn quick. Went right back to their old ways.
So, wrapping this up.
Yeah.
What's the big takeaway here for you, the listener? We've seen these two powerful stories intertwined.
Right. The wild sci-fi imagination of the Mannheim effect. This world literally turned upside down. And June's incredible real-world struggle, that 8-year marathon drawing with his mouth.
It's just a fascinating case study, really, how imagination takes the scientific what-if magnetic fields, gravity, and mixes it with prophecy, politics, survival, creating this huge, epic narrative.
And maybe the real power, the real takeaway, is seeing that creation, that meaning can come from even the most difficult, the most afflicted circumstances.
There's that irony, too, isn't there? The author, stuck in his bed, creates a world where safety lies underground, in confinement.
Yeah, that definitely speaks volumes, finding strength, or maybe just perspective, in immobility.
Okay, so here's a final thought for you to chew on. The elder says that massive, world-breaking event was just a chastisement, a temporary lesson humanity ignored.
Uh-huh. They went back to their old ways even after seeing oceans fall into the sky.
Right. So if that wasn't enough, what kind of final ultimate catastrophe would be required to actually force humanity into permanent, meaningful change? Something to think about.